I'm going to demonstrate how you can make a 100 cycle thump track for use in playback using Pro Tools. And you can output the 100 cycle tone directly from Pro Tools without using any external gear. Okay? And this is a workaround, so be prepared for a few extra steps. Also, let me explain right away that I'm using Pro Tools 7.3. I'm sure many of you will be using Pro Tools 8 and 9, so your interface will look different, but the steps and the instructions are all the same regardless. Okay? So here we go. We start with a new session dialog. I'm going to call this session Thump, and I set up my session parameters to be broadcast wave files at a 48K sample rate and 24-bit word depth. And of course you set it up however it works for you. All right, we click on Save, and here's our blank session to get us started. Hold down the Shift key, the Command key, and strike N on your keyboard. So Shift Command N brings up the New Tracks dialog. You can also bring this dialog up by clicking on the Track menu up above and clicking on New. Here's the New Track dialog, and it usually opens up with exactly what we need for this example, and that is create one new mono audio track in samples. Click on Create, and there's the blank audio track. Now the first thing we need to do to get started is we go up here to the main counter window, and we're going to change our main window to timecode. The next thing is below this is this little thin strip with all sorts of little parameters, and one of them says Grid. You're going to take the Grid drop-down menu and check that you are on one frame. We want the grid to be set up in one frame increments, okay? Next thing, we need to be sure we're working in grid mode, so go up to the upper left corner where you see the Shuffle Spot Slip Grid 4 buttons and click on Grid. Place the cursor anywhere in the audio track, click with the playhead, and it will snap to one of those grid lines. It doesn't matter which grid line it is, it just needs to be on a grid line. Now I'm going to zoom in so that we can get a closer, better look here at what's going on. Notice that right here in the center of the screen, the one blue line in the middle is flashing gold, and that shows that that's where our playhead is. Remember that when you're in grid mode, whenever you click near a line, you don't have to be right on it, the closest line you click to, the playhead jumps and snaps right to that line. Okay? So I'm going to put it back on this line in the center here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the cursor over to the very next blue line to the right. I'm going to hold down the Shift key on my keyboard, and then I'm going to click once. And what I've just done is I have selected a distance of one video frame in the timeline. That's this black area. So I've got a one video frame selection in the timeline. There's nothing in there, it's just blank, but it's important, and I'm going to show you why right now. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to click on Audio Suite from the menu bar up at the top, Audio Suite, come down to Other, and off to the right and down below you'll see Signal Generator. Click on Signal Generator. That brings up this dialog, and what we want to do is we want to create a 100 cycle tone in this blank spot. When the signal generator comes up, the default will probably look like this, 1,000 cycles at -20 dB. For this demonstration, I'm going to use a 1,000 cycle tone so that you can hear it on the video. But when you create it, you want to change this 1,000 cycle tone to a 100 cycle tone. To do that, just double click on the number 1,000. The cursor will be there in the number somewhere. Just delete one of the zeros. Hit delete on your keyboard, then hit enter on your keyboard, or return, and you now have a 100 cycle tone. But as I say, I'm going to use a 1,000 cycle for the demonstration, so I'm going to put it back, double click, I'm just going to put another zero back in there, hit return or enter, and we're back to 1,000 cycle. The level should go up to 0 dB. You want the most output you can get. So double click on -20 and just delete the 2 and the negative sign. leaving you with 0 dB. Hit return or enter on your keyboard, and we're good to go. So here we go. I have 1,000 cycle tone, you'll have 100 cycle tone, and a level of 0 dB. Go down to the right corner of the signal processing window, click on Process, and now you'll see up here in our audio track that blank spot is now filled in with a 100 cycle tone that is exactly 1 frame long. If I put the playhead somewhere out here to the left and I hit the space bar to play it, there you go. You hear just that 1 frame burst of a 1,000 cycle tone. Okay, so now we're done with the signal generator, so we can close that. We're also temporarily finished with this little audio bit that's in the track. So using the grabber, click on it to highlight it, hit the delete key on your keyboard. It'll be taken out of the timeline, but you'll notice over here on the far right, it's still in the region bin. It's always available to us. And it was also assigned some name based on the signal generator. If you want to make that name something that means more to you, double-click directly on the name in the region bin, and you can rename it. I'll rename it mine 1K tone. Next step, we go back up to the main time window up here, and we're going to change our time window from timecode to bars and beats. Again, go down to this little line beneath it where you'll find the grid setting, drop that menu down, and make sure that your grid setting is on quarter note. Make sure the check mark is on quarter note. So we click on quarter note, then it's set. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that we can see a little bit better what's going on here. And that is, you'll see that there is a bold blue line here, followed by 3 faint lines, and then another bold line. So this represents a bar of music. The bold line is the first beat in the bar, and then the next 3 lines are beats 2, 3, and 4. Then the next bold line is the next downbeat. The next thing we need to do is set the tempo. Now in order to set the tempo, you need the transport control window. And that is this window right here. And it is brought up one of 2 ways. You can either use the keyboard using Command and the number 1 on the numeric keypad. You must use the 1 on the numeric keypad. If you're using some of the newer Mac laptops, you don't have a numeric keypad, so that command is not available to you. So instead, what you bring up is the window menu here. Click on Window, and then click on Transport. Brings up the transport window. You want to make sure that it's the complete expanded transport window. Click on View, go down to Transport, and make sure that all 3 of these controls are checked. Counters, MIDI controls, and expanded. When all 3 of those are checked, then your transport window will look like this. When you bring it up, make sure that the metronome button is highlighted, and make sure that the conductor button is not highlighted, just like mine right now. If it's highlighted, it's got a color with it, blue. I'm not sure if it's blue in Pro Tools 8 or 9, but it's highlighted. But most importantly, this little tempo window down here, you can't do anything. You click on it, nothing happens. We want to have access to that tempo window. So you click on the conductor button to turn off the highlighting, and now we can go directly into the tempo window here and enter a tempo. If your composer or music supervisor or music editor tells you what tempo you need, you click on the tempo number in this little window, and you can type it directly. If the tempo is 120, you type 120 and hit enter or return, and now it's the correct tempo, and the grid resizes to accommodate the new tempo. Click again, we can change it to 90, hit enter or return, the grid resizes. You want to go faster, click on it, 160, enter, the grid resizes. What if you don't know the exact tempo? What if you need to figure out or derive the tempo? Well, you can do that too. If you're given a CD, for example, with the piece of music on it that you're supposed to figure out the tempo, you can either play the CD on a separate device, or you can import the track into Pro Tools and play it. While you're playing it, here's what you do. You click on the number again, like you're about to enter a number manually, but instead of entering a number, you go to the T key. T stands for tap tempo on your keyboard, and tap along with the music in tempo. And I strongly recommend that you tap at least 20 to 30 times to make sure that you have settled in to a comfortable groove and can pretty much match the tempo of the music that you're following. Keep your eye on the number in the little window, in the little tempo window, because it will change with every tap. And what you want to see is that the number is only changing a little bit from tap to tap, like only one tick either way, like it's going 100, 100, 100, and 99, 99, 99, 100, 100, 101, 101. When you're in that kind of groove, then you're fine. On the other hand, if the number is jumping by larger amounts, like 120, 130, 135, 140, well, your tempo isn't constant enough to be reliable. So, tap along for at least 20 to 30 clicks, keeping your eye on the number until it settles. So I'll do a little demonstration now. I'm not sure if you can see it clearly on the video, it's so small, but I'll fill you in. So I'll just pick a tempo, and here I go. I'm tapping along, 95, 92, 94, 93, 94, 94, 95. Once you've gotten a tempo to settle and you're confident that you're tapping along at a good, steady tempo, then just stop tapping. Whatever the last number in the window, just then hit enter or return on your keyboard, and that's your chosen tempo. The grid resizes and you're ready to go. For the rest of this demonstration, I'm going to enter a tempo of 120 beats per minute. I'm going to take my tone out of the region list. I'm going to click it and I'm going to drag it into the audio track, and I'm going to drop it right next to the first bold line I see there in the center. Okay? So it's right on the first beat of the bar. And I'm going to do this for 3 more beats. So I go to the second one, the next one to the right, the third one, which is the next one to the right, and the fourth one. So there's my 4 beats to the bar. Now, what I need to do is I need to get Pro Tools ready to do an endless loop of these 4 clicks. I'm doing an endless loop because this demonstration I'm giving you is how to set up a constant, never-ending, never-changing tempo. If we need to set up a tempo that does change, it goes faster or slower or something over the course of the clicks, well, that's another demonstration. Now that I have my 4 clicks in, we're going to get ready to set up the loop here. We start by clicking, using the grabber, on the first click of the sequence, the one on the left. Then I'm going to move the cursor to the next bold line, which is the beginning of the next bar. There's no click there, and there shouldn't be a click there, but that's where I'm moving the cursor. Hold down the Shift key and click. Now, I've created a highlight here that is 1 full bar long. If you click only to the 4th beat, then your clicks won't work and the tempo won't work properly. You need to create a highlight that goes from the first beat of a bar all the way to the first beat of the next bar. Now that we have this highlight set up, all we have to do is tell the transport window to play this highlighted section in an endless loop. And the way we do that is we go to the play button. You can either do it up here or on the transport window. It's the same play button. And you can hold down the control key and click. That brings up this little loop arrow, which means that the highlighted section will play in an endless loop over and over and over. To disengage this, hold down the control key again and click on it again. You'll notice that the loop arrow goes away. So let me put the loop back on. Then I hit the space bar to start playing, and here's what we get. It's just an endlessly playing 120 beat per minute loop, and it will play forever until you hit the space bar to stop it again.